The whispers began the night they almost died. At first, they thought it was just fear playing tricks on them. Faint voices carried by the wind, echoes in the silence. But when they heard the same whispers at the same time, even miles apart, they knew it wasn't their imagination. Something had followed them from that night, binding them together in a mystery neither of them could escape. The rain came down in thick sheets, hammering against the windshield. The road ahead was barely visible through the darkness, and every flash of lightning only seemed to make the shadows stretch longer. Aadam gripped the wheel tighter, his knuckles white. Beside him, Zayan shifted uneasily, checking the time on his phone. "Maybe we should pull over," Zayan said, his voice edged with concern. Aadam shook his head. "We're almost there. Just a few more miles." They had been driving for hours, heading back from a weekend trip that was supposed to be a break from their stressful lives. But something felt off. A strange tension had settled between them ever since they left the cabin, like an invisible presence lingering in the car. A sudden gust of wind slammed against the vehicle, making it swerve slightly. Aadam cursed under his breath, adjusting the wheel. "Careful, man." Zayan snapped, gripping the edge of his seat. And then, a shadow. A figure. Standing in the middle of the road. "Aadam, look." The car skidded as Aadam yanked the wheel to avoid hitting whatever was ahead. Tires screeched against the wet pavement. The world spun. The headlights flickered against the trees. And then, crash. The impact was sudden, violent. Glass shattered. Metal twisted. Silence followed. Darkness. Silence. And then the whisper. "You were not supposed to be here." Aadam's head was pounding. His vision blurred as he struggled to make sense of what had happened. The car had stopped moving. The windshield was cracked, rain dripping in through the shattered glass. Zayan groaned beside him, rubbing his forehead where blood was trickling down. "Are you okay?" Aadam managed to ask, his voice weak. Zayan nodded, dazed. "Yeah, I think so." "What the hell just happened?" They both turned to look outside. The road was empty. No sign of the figure they had seen. Just endless darkness and the steady sound of rain. Aadam exhaled sharply. "Did you see?" Zayan nodded slowly. "Yeah. I saw them." Aadam's skin prickled. "Who was that?" And then it happened again. A whisper. Soft. Faint. But undeniable. "You were not supposed to be here." The voice wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside the car. Aadam and Zayan froze. The air around them seemed to thicken, pressing down on their chests. Zayan reached for his phone, but the screen was black. Dead. Aadam swallowed hard. "We need to get out of here." They fumbled with their seatbelts, pushing the jammed car doors open. The storm raged around them as they stumbled onto the deserted road. Their breath came out in uneven gasps, hearts pounding in their chests. And then they saw it. The place they had crashed into. An old, abandoned house. Hidden behind the thick trees, barely visible under the stormy sky. The front door was slightly open. And from within the darkness, a whisper called to them once more. "You were not supposed to be here." Aadam turned to Zayan, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to leave. Now." Zayan didn't argue. They turned, rushing back to the car. But as they did, the headlights flickered, just for a moment, illuminating the road ahead. And there it was, the figure, standing right where they had seen it before. Only now it was facing them, watching, waiting. The whisper grew louder. "But now you cannot leave." And the darkness swallowed them whole. The night pressed down around them, thick with an unnatural stillness. The figure stood in the middle of the road, unmoving, as if it had been waiting for them. Aadam's breath caught in his throat, his heartbeat roaring in his ears. Beside him, Zayan stood frozen, his fingers twitching as if debating whether to reach for his phone, even though they both knew it was dead. The whisper came again, clearer this time. "You cannot leave." Aadam's skin prickled. "Did you hear that?" Zayan nodded stiffly. "Yeah, I heard it." Neither of them wanted to move, but something inside Aadam told him they had no choice. He forced himself to take a step forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "Who are you?" The figure didn't respond. It didn't move. It was hard to tell if it was even human. The darkness seemed to wrap around it unnaturally, shifting like it was alive. Adam's throat tightened. He had never been one to believe in the supernatural, but standing there, drenched in rain, staring at something that should not exist, he knew this was real. Zayan finally found his voice. "Let's just go, man. Forget this. Let's get out of here." Adam wanted to agree, but as he took a step back toward the car, the headlights flickered, just for a second, and the figure disappeared. Gone. Like it had never been there. A chill ran down his spine. "No way," Zayan muttered, spinning in circles, scanning the road. Where did it go? Adam's gaze shifted back to the abandoned house. The front door was still slightly ajar. And then, as if drawn by some unseen force, the whisper came again. "Come inside." Adam felt his blood turn to ice. He turned to Zayan. "We're not going in there." But even as he said it, something in his gut told him that wasn't their choice to make anymore. Inside the house, the air was thick with dust and something else, something heavy, like the weight of time pressing down on the walls. The wooden floor groaned beneath their steps as they hesitantly stepped inside. Adam wasn't sure why they had done it. Maybe it was the whisper, pulling them forward. Maybe it was the sickening feeling that leaving wasn't an option anymore. Zayan exhaled shakily. "This place looks like it's been abandoned for decades." Adam nodded, his eyes scanning the darkened hallways. "Yeah. But we both know it's not empty." The whisper came again, closer this time. "You are here because you were meant to be." Adam's breath hitched. He turned sharply, expecting to see something standing behind them. Nothing. But something was here. Watching. Waiting. Zayan took a shaky step forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't like this man. We should." The door behind them slammed shut. They both jumped, spinning around. Zayan lunged for the door, yanking at the handle. "No, no, no, hell no. We're leaving." The door didn't budge. It was like something was holding it shut. Then, from the darkness of the hallway, footsteps echoed. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. Adam's fingers clenched into fists. "Who's there?" No response. Just the sound of footsteps coming from the darkness. Zayan took a step back. "Adam, we need to—" The whisper interrupted him. "You were here before." Adam's stomach dropped. "What? You have always been here." His pulse hammered against his ribs. That's not possible. But deep down, something inside him twisted. Something buried. Something forgotten. Zayan's breathing was ragged. "Adam, what if this isn't the first time we've been here?" The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then, slowly, the lights in the hallway flickered, just for a second. And when the darkness returned, the figure was standing right in front of them. Zayan stumbled back, his voice breaking. "No. Nope. No way." The figure didn't move. It stood there, its face obscured, but its presence unmistakable. And then it spoke. Not a whisper. A voice. Familiar. Adam's blood ran cold. "You left me here." Zayan grabbed Adam's arm. "Adam, what is this?" Adam couldn't breathe. Because now he remembered. This wasn't the first time they had been here. And this wasn't the first time they had tried to leave. The house was no longer just an abandoned building. It was a memory. A truth they had buried. And now the shadows were speaking. The whisper returned, wrapping around them like smoke. "You cannot leave, not again." And this time, Adam knew. It wasn't a threat. It was the truth. The house was no longer just an abandoned structure. It was alive, breathing in the darkness, whispering the secrets they had long forgotten. Adam stood frozen, his pulse pounding in his ears. Zayan was next to him, gripping his arm like a lifeline. The figure before them did not move, yet its presence filled the room. Its voice echoed in the air, chilling and unmistakable. "You left me here." Adam's breath hitched. He could feel something clawing at the edges of his mind, trying to break through. Zayan swallowed hard. "Adam, what is this?" Adam's lips parted, but no words came out. He wasn't sure. No, he didn't want to be sure. But the whispers weren't giving him a choice. They were forcing him to remember. Flashback. Years ago. The first time Adam had seen this house, he had been young. Too young to understand. He had been here before, but the memories had been buried deep beneath layers of time. There had been laughter once. The sound of voices, of people who mattered. But something had happened. Something terrible. A storm. A night just like this. And then someone had vanished. The memory was blurry, fragmented, but the whispers were filling in the blanks. You were supposed to stay. Adam staggered back, his breath coming in shallow gasps. Zayan grabbed his arm. Adam, what the hell is happening? The whisper twisted around them like a cold breeze. You forgot us. And then the figure stepped forward. The shadows peeled away, revealing a face. A familiar face. A face Adam had not seen in years. His brother. Back to the present. Adam's knees nearly buckled. No, he choked out. This isn't possible. The figure tilted its head, eyes hollow yet burning with something unreadable. You were supposed to come back for me. Zayan took a sharp breath. Adam, is that? Adam couldn't speak. Couldn't move. His mind was spinning, breaking apart under the weight of the truth. He had a brother. Had. But something had happened to him. Something Adam had locked away, buried deep in his mind. And now, the whispers were forcing him to remember. Flashback. The last time he saw him. The storm had raged that night, much like this one. Adam had been scared. His brother, his twin, had been even more terrified. They had been told not to go into the woods. But they had. And only Adam had come back. Back to the present. Adam gasped, the weight of realization crashing down on him. It was you. His voice shook. It's always been you. His brother, his twin, had been lost that night. Lost and never found. Except now, he had found his way back. Zayan took a step back. Adam, we need to get out of here. But Adam wasn't sure they could. Because the house wasn't letting them go. Because his brother wasn't letting him go. The whisper curled around them once more, soft, almost sad. You cannot leave because I never did. The shadows stretched, twisting into something more. And then the house shook. The past wasn't done with them yet. And the silence was about to break. The air inside the house felt heavier, like it had been holding its breath for years. Adam stood frozen, his heart hammering against his ribs. His brother, his twin, the one he had lost all those years ago, was here. Or at least something that looked like him. Zayan was tense beside him, his breathing uneven, his hand gripping Adam's wrist as if afraid that if he let go, they would both disappear into the darkness. The whisper came again, softer this time. You never came back for me? Adam clenched his fists, his throat tight. I didn't know where to look. I was a kid. I thought, he swallowed, his voice barely a whisper. I thought you were gone. The figure tilted its head, eyes dark and unreadable. But I wasn't. And then the house changed. The shadows pulsed like a living thing, stretching, twisting, pulling the walls apart. The floor beneath them trembled. The old furniture cracked and splintered, as if something buried deep within the house was finally waking up. Zayan stumbled back. Adam, I don't like this. A rush of cold air slammed into them, knocking the breath from Adam's lungs. The walls around them flickered, like a reel of an old film playing scenes that had been forgotten. And suddenly, they were no longer in the present. Flashback. The night it all happened. Adam was 10 years old again. The storm raged outside, lightning slashing across the sky. He and his brother stood at the edge of the woods, their small hands intertwined. I don't want to go, his brother had whispered. Adam had looked at him, the fear in his twin's eyes mirroring his own. We just need to prove we're not scared. Then we can go back. But they had gone too far. The whispers had started. The wind had carried voices that weren't theirs. Shadows moved between the trees, circling them. And then, his brother was gone, vanished into the darkness. Adam had screamed his name. He had searched, stumbled, ran until his legs gave out. But the only thing that answered him were the whispers. And so he had run. He had left. And he had never looked back. Back to the present. Adam gasped as the memory slammed into him like a wave, his chest heaving. I didn't leave you. I tried to find you. His brother's figure flickered, shifting between solid and shadow. You forgot me? No. Adam's voice cracked. I never forgot. I didn't know what else to do. The house trembled again. The whispers grew louder, an ocean of voices crashing together. Zayan's grip on Adam's arm tightened. Adam, if we don't leave now, we never will. Adam looked at his brother, at the shadow that had once been him. And for the first time he truly listened, not just to the whispers, but to the silence between them, to the grief, to the loss, to the pain of being left behind. Tears burned his eyes. I'm sorry. His voice was barely a breath. I should have stayed. I should have tried harder. But I never stopped carrying you with me. The shadow trembled. The whispers slowed. And then, for the first time, his brother whispered back. I know. The house exhaled. The shadows began to fade, retreating into the walls. The weight that had pressed against Adam's chest for so many years lifted, leaving him gasping for breath. The door behind them creaked open. Adam turned to Zayan, his vision blurred. Let's go. And this time, when they stepped outside, the whispers did not follow. The cold night air greeted them as Adam and Zayan stepped out of the house, their footsteps crunching against the damp grass. The door creaked behind them, then slowly swung shut. The whispering had stopped. The weight of the past that had kept the house suffocatingly alive was finally gone. But the silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. For the first time in years, the house let them go. Adam's legs felt weak, but he didn't stop moving. His chest ached with emotions too heavy to name. He had spent years trying to forget, trying to outrun something that had always been inside him. His brother. The whisper had never been a curse. It had been a plea, a soul crying out, waiting to be heard. And now it could finally rest. Zayan let out a long breath, glancing back at the house. The storm had passed, and the air smelled like wet earth and something else, something lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from the world itself. I don't even know what just happened, Zayan admitted, rubbing his face. I feel like we were in there for hours, but... He checked his phone. The screen lit up, fully functional again. It's only been 20 minutes. Adam wasn't surprised. Time had felt different in there, warped, tangled in memories that had long been buried. He turned back to the house, half expecting to hear the whispers again. But there was nothing. Just the hollow remains of a place that had once held so much pain. It's over, Adam murmured. He's finally free. Zayan hesitated. Are you? Adam didn't answer right away. He let the question settle, feeling the cool air against his skin, the silence of the night wrapping around him. Was he free? For years, he had carried the weight of something he hadn't even remembered. The guilt, the loss, the whispers. And now, standing under the vast open sky, he finally understood. Letting go didn't mean forgetting. His brother's whispers would always be a part of him. But they weren't a curse. They were a reminder of love, of loss, and of the things we carry, even after death. A few days later, Adam found himself back in the city, sitting on a park bench as the sun dipped below the horizon. The golden hues painted the sky, casting long shadows across the grass. It was quiet, peaceful, the kind of silence he had feared for so long, but now it felt different. He reached into his pocket, pulling out an old photograph. Two boys stood side by side, arms slung over each other's shoulders. His brother's face was bright, full of life. Adam swallowed the lump in his throat, running his thumb over the faded edges of the picture. He closed his eyes, listening. And for the first time in years, he didn't hear whispers. Just the wind. Just the rustling of leaves. Just the quiet hum of the world moving forward. He exhaled. Then, just as he was about to put the photo away, a familiar breeze brushed past him, light as a whisper. And in that moment, Adam knew. His brother had never been lost. He had always been right there, waiting to be heard. The screen fades to black. A final whisper lingers in the air, soft, gentle, eternal. You were never alone,